Have you ever felt like there's something in your mind that keeps you from being truly happy? As if an invisible pattern holds you captive in the same cycles of thought, the same habits, and the same emotions that seem to prevent you from moving forward. Carl Jung, the great pioneer of depth psychology, dedicated his life to studying these patterns and arrived at a surprising conclusion. Happiness is not something we seek outside of ourselves. It is something we uncover within, in the way we interpret and process our own reality. The problem is that, more often than not, we fail to realize that we have been conditioned to think a certain way. Our childhood, society, our past experiences, all of these elements have shaped our perception of the world and of ourselves, often without us even noticing. And this is where one of Jung's fundamental concepts comes into play: the unconscious. Deep within us, in the most hidden layers of our psyche, there exists a collection of beliefs, memories, and repressed experiences that influence us without our awareness. Imagine your mind as a vast ocean. On the surface, you find everything you know, everything you remember, and everything you believe yourself to be. But beneath that surface, in the deep, uncharted waters, lies an entire world of hidden forces, shadows and archetypes that shape your behavior, your decisions, and most importantly, your ability to find happiness. The real problem is that most people live solely on the surface. They never dare to dive into the depths of their own minds. And yet, it is precisely in those depths where the key to transforming your mental framework lies. Jung spoke of a crucial concept: the shadow. The shadow is that part of ourselves that we have rejected, hidden away because it did not fit into what society or our families expected of us. It contains everything we were told was wrong, everything that should not be expressed, everything that had to be suppressed. But what no one told us is that whatever we repress does not simply disappear. It becomes a silent force that continues to influence our lives from the unconscious. Every time you act in a way you do not fully understand, every time you repeat a pattern of behavior that seems to sabotage you, there is a good chance that it is your shadow manifesting itself. That is why Jung urges us to do something that few people dare to do: face it. Because true mental transformation does not occur when we force ourselves to be positive or when we repeat empty affirmations. It happens when we have the courage to look within ourselves, to examine the stories we have been telling ourselves, and most importantly, to rewrite those stories. Think about this for a moment. If you constantly tell yourself that you are not enough, that you do not deserve success, that happiness is something others can have, but that somehow always escapes you, what do you think will happen? Your unconscious mind will seek confirmation of those beliefs, and without you even realizing it, it will sabotage any opportunity that challenges that narrative. This is not magic, it is psychology. It is the law of projection that Jung described. We see in the world what we carry within us. If you constantly find yourself surrounded by people who do not value you, if you remain trapped in relationships that drain you, if opportunities seem to slip away just when you are about to seize them, Jung would say that this is no coincidence. It is a reflection of the hidden beliefs you hold about yourself. And here is the crucial point: those beliefs are not set in stone. You can change them. But in order to do so, you must first bring them into the light. And this brings us to a fundamental concept: the process of individuation. This is the journey of integrating all aspects of yourself, both the conscious and the unconscious, to become a whole, authentic being. It is not an easy process. It requires confronting your fears, embracing the parts of yourself you once rejected, and ultimately breaking free from the limitations imposed by the mind. But once you begin this journey, once you take the first step towards true self-awareness, everything begins to change. Carl Jung believed that the purpose of life is not simply to fit in or to live according to the expectations of others. Instead, it is about discovering who you truly are. This journey of self-discovery is not something that happens overnight. It is a deep and ongoing process. Along the way, you begin to question what you once believed to be true. Let go of what no longer serves you, and integrate the parts of yourself that you may have previously rejected. However, this path requires immense courage because it means facing aspects of yourself that you might not like. It means admitting that, at times, you have acted out of fear, and that many of your decisions were not truly yours, but were influenced by societal conditioning, upbringing, or external pressures. This realization can be uncomfortable, but the alternative is to continue living on autopilot, unaware that you are the one holding the keys to your own chains. So, the real question is, are you willing to look within? Are you ready to challenge the beliefs that you have accepted as absolute truth for so long? Because if you do, if you truly dare to face your shadow, you will discover something extraordinary. Beneath all the layers of conditioning and fear, there exists a part of you that has always known the truth. A part that knows you are capable, that you deserve happiness, and that you have the power to change your reality at any given moment. But to access that truth, you must first silence the noise and turn inward. When you begin to question your own thought patterns, something inside you shifts. It's as if you are waking up from a long sleep in which you believed that the world was only one way. Now, you start to see that there is another reality, another way to live and perceive the world, one that you had never considered before. Jung described this as the process of bringing the unconscious into consciousness. And here lies the key. You cannot change what you are not aware of. Only when you recognize the patterns that have been limiting you can you begin to transform them. But how do you recognize these patterns? There is a simple way. Observe the areas of your life where you feel the most resistance, where things seem harder than they should be. Do you struggle to maintain healthy relationships? Do you sabotage yourself just before achieving a goal? Do you feel like success is something meant for others, but not for you? In each of these situations, there is a hidden message. These challenges are the manifestations of your shadow, the parts of you that remain unintegrated, and until you bring them to light, they will continue to show up in your life, again and again. Most people choose to ignore these signs. It's easier to blame fate, bad luck, or others for our struggles. But Jung offered a powerful insight. The outer world is merely a reflection of our inner world. Everything you experience in your reality is, in some way, a manifestation of your psyche. If there is something in your life that causes you pain or frustration, instead of looking outward for someone to blame, the real solution is to look inward and ask yourself, what part of me is creating this? This process is not easy. It requires humility to admit that many of our beliefs and behaviors have been adopted without question. From childhood, we learn what success, love, and happiness mean based on what we observe around us. But we rarely stop to ask whether these definitions actually serve us, whether they truly bring us fulfillment. We live repeating inherited patterns without realizing that we have the power to choose differently. And that is the key. You can choose to think differently, feel differently, and live differently. You can reprogram your mind. Jung understood that the unconscious is not merely a storage place for repressed memories, it is also an endless source of wisdom. Deep within you, there is a voice that has always been there, waiting for you to listen. It is not the voice of fear, nor of the ego, nor of society. It is the voice of your true essence, the part of you that knows what you genuinely need to be happy. But to hear it, you must first quiet all the external noise. One of the greatest obstacles to shifting our mindset is our attachment to the identity we have constructed. We identify with our struggles, our wounds, and our personal history. If you have always been someone who has to fight for everything, someone who suffers and sacrifices, then letting go of that identity can feel like losing a part of yourself, and that can be terrifying. But Jung teaches us that true transformation happens when we stop identifying with the limited version of ourselves and start seeing ourselves for what we truly are, beings in constant evolution. This is where the concept of individuation comes in. It is not just about knowing yourself. It is about becoming the best version of yourself, the person you were always meant to be. But to achieve this, you must let go of old stories, fears, doubts, and everything that no longer aligns with your new path. And this doesn't happen overnight. It is a process, a journey of letting go, questioning, and rewriting your internal narrative. At this very moment, if you constantly tell yourself that life is hard, that you are unlucky, or that things never go your way, your mind will seek to confirm those beliefs again and again until you decide to rewrite the script. But the moment you realize this, when you become aware of the power your thoughts and beliefs hold, everything changes. You finally understand that you are in control, that you always have been. You just couldn't see it before. This realization can be terrifying for many, because acknowledging that you have control also means accepting responsibility for what you create. You can no longer blame others, circumstances, or fate. But at the same time, this is the greatest liberation you can experience. If you have created your reality up until now, that means you also have the power to transform it. You are not doomed to repeat the same mistakes or to relive the same stories. Change is possible, and it begins with a decision, a conscious choice about how you want to think, how you want to feel, and how you want to live. The beliefs you hold today are not truly yours. They were implanted in your mind by your environment, your experiences, and your past. But that doesn't mean you have to cling to them forever. You can reprogram your mind, replacing limiting ideas with new beliefs that empower you. This is the process that Jung referred to as integration. It's not about denying who you were, but about embracing who you truly are. It's about shifting from a life dictated by fear to one guided by authenticity. And this is where many people stop, because changing your mindset is not something that happens with a simple wish. It requires action, consistency, and a daily commitment to choosing thoughts that align with the life you want to create. It's not enough to listen to motivational words or read about psychology. You must apply this knowledge in your life. You need to observe your thoughts and question them, asking yourself every time a limiting belief arises, is this really true? Or is it just a story I was told and chose to believe? Your mind is like a garden. If you plant seeds of doubt, fear, and scarcity, that is exactly what will grow. But if you begin to sow thoughts of abundance, confidence, and possibility, you will gradually start to see real changes in your life. Not because of some kind of magic, but because your mind will finally be aligned with what you truly desire. This entire process can be summarized in one powerful idea. Your external world is a reflection of your internal world. If you want to see changes in your outer reality, you must first create them within yourself. Jung understood this deeply, which is why he emphasized the importance of introspection, of working with the unconscious, and of integrating our shadows. Because only when we dare to look within and transform what we find can we truly change our reality. And so, the question remains, are you willing to look inside yourself and discover what is truly preventing your happiness? Because the first step in shifting your mindset is not searching for answers outside, it is asking yourself the right questions. Questions that will lead you to uncover who you really are, what you truly want, and most importantly, what you are willing to do to achieve it. True transformation begins the moment you take responsibility for what happens in your life. Jung famously said, "What you resist persists." This is a crucial key to understanding why certain painful situations seem to repeat themselves over and over. It's not bad luck. It's not destiny punishing you. It's your unconscious trying to get your attention, showing you something unresolved within you. Think of every difficult situation as a mirror. If you constantly encounter the same conflicts in your relationships, if you feel stuck despite your efforts, it means there is something within you that needs to be acknowledged. You cannot change what you refuse to see. If, instead of avoiding or denying these experiences, you use them as opportunities to understand what part of you is creating them, you will begin to experience deep transformation. The common reaction is to blame external circumstances, the economy, society, the people around us. But Jung teaches us that all of these external factors are merely reflections of our inner world. And once you accept this, you realize something incredibly powerful. You don't need to wait for things outside of you to change in order to be happy. You can start right now with a single shift in perspective. This is where a fundamental principle comes into play: projection. The world you see is, in many ways, a projection of your inner self. Your fears, your wounds, your beliefs, whether conscious or unconscious, are mirrored back to you through your experiences. When you change the way you perceive yourself, the world around you begins to change as well. Carl Jung discovered something profound and revealing. What irritates us about others is actually a reflection of aspects of ourselves that we have repressed or denied. The qualities we criticize, the things that bother us in others, are often a mirror of our own shadow. Every time someone triggers a strong reaction in you, instead of reacting automatically, ask yourself, what part of me is being reflected in this person? Why does this affect me so much? You may discover that there is something in your unconscious that you have yet to integrate. This is one of the keys to shifting your mindset. If you continue projecting your own fears, frustrations, or insecurities onto others, you will remain trapped in the same patterns. But when you start observing these projections and becoming aware of them, you can stop being a victim of your mind and start taking control. The problem is that most people don't want to face their shadow. It's uncomfortable, it's challenging, and many prefer to distract themselves with the external world rather than look within. But Jung warns us, what you do not confront within yourself will eventually manifest in your life as fate. In other words, if you don't work on healing what you carry inside, life will keep showing it to you repeatedly, through situations and people that reflect your unresolved internal conflicts. This is why some people seem to repeat the same stories over and over again. They find themselves attracted to the same toxic relationships, caught in the same conflicts, facing the same financial or emotional struggles. It's not a coincidence. It's their unconscious trying to teach them a lesson. And until they bring that lesson to consciousness, they will remain stuck in the same cycle. But here is where most people get it wrong. They believe that in order to change their reality, they must change their external circumstances. They look for a new partner, a new job, a new country. But no matter how many times they change the setting, if they don't do the internal work, the same problems will appear over and over again. Because the problem was never outside. It was always within. Real change only happens when you dare to look inside yourself and take full responsibility for your life. This doesn't mean blaming yourself or feeling guilty for what you have experienced so far. It means realizing that you have the power to change it. It means stopping the search for something or someone to save you and instead starting to work on yourself. This is where deep self-awareness becomes essential. Jung believed that true happiness is not a superficial state of constant joy, but a profound sense of connection with who you really are. And to achieve this, you must question the beliefs that have limited you, face your fears, explore your shadow, and bring it to the light. This process is neither quick nor easy. It requires commitment, patience, and above all, courage. But when you begin, you realize that happiness was never in the things you thought it was in. It was never in having more money, in seeking validation from others, or in achieving external goals. True happiness is an internal state of peace and clarity. It is living in alignment with yourself, without masks, without pretending to be something you're not. And here's something very important to understand. Many of the things you have been chasing may not even be yours. It's possible that you have been trying to achieve goals that were imposed on you by others. Maybe you were told that to be happy, you need success, wealth, or a perfect relationship. But did you ever stop to ask yourself if that's what you really want? Did you ever take the time to listen to your own voice and discover what truly fulfills you? Jung teaches us that self-knowledge is the path to true freedom. Because when you truly know who you are and what you want, you stop being a slave to other people's expectations. You stop acting out of fear of failure or rejection. You start living from a place of authenticity, purpose, and truth. This is the moment when many people feel liberated because they realize that they never needed to change the external world to be happy. The only thing they needed to change was the way they perceived the world, and more importantly, the way they perceived themselves. This process does not mean that life will suddenly become free of challenges. You will still face difficult moments. You will still experience pain at times. But the difference is that now you won't see these challenges as something working against you, but as opportunities for growth. Because when you change your mindset, you change the way you interpret every experience. And here lies the real secret. Happiness is not something you achieve. It is something you cultivate from within. It does not depend on what you have, what you accomplish, or what others think of you. It depends on how aligned you are with your truth, on how much you have integrated your shadow, on how willing you are to live authentically. Because when you live this way, everything changes. The relationships you attract change. The opportunities that come into your life change. The way you experience each day changes. Not because the world has magically changed, but because you have. And when you change, everything else transforms. This is the power of inner work. This is the key to shifting your mindset. And if you've made it this far, if these words have resonated with you, it means that at some level, you are already ready to take that step. You don't need to wait for tomorrow. You don't need someone else's permission. You can start right now. All it takes is a decision. Because when you begin to change the way you think, the way you see the world, and most importantly, the way you see yourself, everything begins to transform. And not because the world magically changed, but because now you have a new perspective, a new level of awareness. Jung said that what we deny within ourselves controls us from the shadows, but what we accept sets us free. This is the true power of mental transformation, stopping the habit of running from yourself and instead recognizing, understanding, and integrating who you truly are. Maybe for a long time, you felt like something in your life doesn't quite fit, like you're repeating the same mistakes, like there's an invisible barrier between you and the happiness you desire. Now you know why. Now you understand that this block isn't external. It's inside you. It's in the stories you've told yourself, in the beliefs you've held on to, in the parts of yourself you've rejected. And now you have the key to start changing it. But remember, change doesn't happen overnight. It's not an instant revelation or an immediate transformation. It's a process, a journey of self-discovery, a path of questioning everything you once took for granted, of letting go of what no longer serves you, and of opening yourself to new possibilities. And every small step counts. Every time you choose a different thought, every time you decide to act from truth instead of fear, every time you dare to be who you truly are, you are reprogramming your mind. You are changing your reality. And here's the most important thing. You are not alone in this process. We are all on this journey of self-knowledge and evolution. At some point, we have all felt trapped in our own limitations. But what separates those who keep repeating the same patterns from those who truly change their lives is one simple decision: the courage to look within, the courage to face what they have been avoiding, the courage to take the first step toward transformation. So today, I want to invite you to do something. Don't let this knowledge remain just words. Reflect on what you've heard. Apply it to your life. Ask yourself the questions that truly matter. What stories have I been telling myself about who I am? What beliefs have been limiting my happiness? Am I ready to let go of what no longer serves me and start building a new reality from authenticity? And if this message resonated with you, if something inside you clicked, help me share it with more people. There are so many people out there still trapped in their own fears, people who need to hear this, who need to remember that they have the power to change their lives. Let me know in the comments, which part of this message impacted you the most? What are you ready to change in your life? I want to read your thoughts. I want to know how this knowledge can help transform your reality. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. Because in every video, we continue to explore these topics, diving deeper into the incredible power of our minds and the path to a more conscious, fulfilling life. Share this video with someone who needs it, someone you feel is searching for answers. Because by doing so, you're not just helping spread this message, you're also contributing to a community of people who, like you, are ready to wake up, to change, and to live from their truth. Remember, life doesn't change when external circumstances change. Life changes when you decide to change your mind, your perception, and your energy. And that power has always been in your hands. It's time to use it. See you in the next video. Many people believe that wealth is a matter of luck, of being in the right place at the right time, of waiting for circumstances to change and open some magical door to abundance. They cling to the idea that someone else will give them the opportunity they need, that destiny will intervene and transform their financial life overnight. But that illusion keeps them trapped in the very patterns that destroy them, spending more than they earn, postponing important decisions, surrounding themselves with people who don't grow. Carl Jung taught that true wealth is not born from the external world, but from the inner one. It arises from the discipline with which you decide to break the habits that enslave you and replace them with those that set you free. Wealth doesn't need luck. It needs awareness, persistence, and the courage to let go of everything that no longer serves you. Real wealth is built in silence, through small daily choices that may seem insignificant, but, accumulated over time, form an empire. The mind is the factory of destiny, and the thoughts you feed determine whether you live in scarcity or in abundance. If you want a different life, don't wait for the economy to improve or for a miracle to arrive. Change yourself. Break the patterns that sink you and create new ones that elevate you. The power is already in your hands, and the moment to use it begins today. Most people live trapped in invisible patterns, endlessly spinning like a hamster on a wheel. They work hard, make an effort, even believe they're doing the right thing. Yet deep down, they wonder why they never seem to move toward a life of true abundance. These patterns are invisible chains, learned routines, inherited thoughts, beliefs repeated without question. And the most dangerous part is that, being invisible, they seem normal. The man who spends more than he earns, who settles for survival, who repeats phrases like, "I have no luck," or "I wasn't born to be rich," is feeding the very habits that drag him down a little more each day. Jung observed this countless times. People with great talent, potential, and dreams, yet without the clarity to see that what keeps them poor is not the lack of opportunity, but the repetition of the same wrong choices. Breaking those patterns begins with the first step, seeing them with absolute honesty. Ask yourself, without fear, what am I doing that keeps me in the same place? What excuses do I repeat to avoid taking risks? What limiting thoughts make me believe that wealth is meant for others? Most people ignore these questions because facing them hurts. Accepting that we've been accomplices in our own stagnation is not easy. But that's where true transformation begins, not in denial or in blame, but in recognition. Every pattern that binds you was once created by you, and therefore you have the power to destroy it and replace it. Wealth doesn't begin with money, it begins with mindset. A person who keeps thinking from scarcity can receive a fortune and lose it within months because their inner patterns remain unchanged. But someone who develops discipline, vision, and self-control can start from nothing and build an empire. What makes the difference is not what's in your wallet, but what's in your mind. And that mind can begin its training today. Every thought of lack must be faced with a thought of abundance. Every excuse must be replaced with action. Every habit that drags you down must be exchanged for one that lifts you higher. That's how patterns are broken, not with grand gestures, but with small, consistent decisions that, repeated over time, reprogram your entire life. Think about this. If every day you spend more than you earn, you are building poverty. If every day you spend less and save a part, you are building wealth. If every day you postpone your projects waiting for the right moment, you are cultivating mediocrity. But if every day you take even a single small step toward your dreams, you are cultivating greatness. The direction of your life is written in those choices. Patterns are not broken by wishing. They are broken by discipline. And discipline begins with clarity, with the courage to say no more, and the commitment to act differently. The real question is, do you have the strength to break years of conditioning and build a new path? Because if you do, you will not only change your relationship with money, but with life itself. Those who remain trapped in scarcity are rarely there because they lack intelligence or ability, but because their thoughts repeat in endless cycles that solidify into fate. Every negative belief, every fear avoided, every justification whispered to themselves weaves an invisible web that keeps them bound. And the most painful truth is that this web was built largely from the voices of the past. What parents said, what schools taught, what society repeated. Money corrupts. Wealth is not for people like us. It's better to settle and live quietly. These phrases seem harmless, yet they are seeds that grow into trees, blocking the road to abundance. What you believe in the depths of your mind becomes what you accept as reality. And until you uproot those old beliefs, you will continue living under the shadow of limitations that aren't even yours. Breaking a pattern begins with the conscious act of questioning it. Ask yourself, why do I believe it's impossible? Who taught me to settle? Why do I still believe wealth is meant only for a chosen few? When you face these questions honestly, a door to freedom opens, and in that space, you realize you no longer have to accept those invisible chains. Because wealth does not discriminate. It does not care where you were born, how you grew up, or how many times you failed. Wealth follows laws as precise as gravity. Discipline, vision, action, and consistency. If you plant the right seeds, you harvest abundance. But if you keep planting excuses, you'll only reap scarcity. It's simple, though not easy. The challenge is not understanding the truth. It's having the courage to apply new beliefs and sustain them long enough for them to bear fruit. Observe the mind of a man who unconsciously condemns himself to poverty. He always finds reasons not to start. It's not the right time. I need more money first. When luck arrives, I'll try. And so, with those words, he delays his dreams until his entire life becomes an endless waiting room. The man who builds wealth, however, thinks differently. He doesn't wait for perfect conditions because he knows they will never come. He doesn't rely on luck because he understands luck is created through action. He doesn't fear beginning small because he knows every empire began with a single step. That shift in mindset is what separates those who drown in mediocrity from those who rise above it toward a life of abundance. The first chain you must break is the belief that you can't. Every time your mind whispers, "It's impossible," challenge it with proof. Seek out stories of those who began with nothing and still built extraordinary lives. Remind yourself that no one is born destined for wealth. It is built through discipline and vision. When you change the way you think, you open the door to new possibilities. And when you act in alignment with that new way of thinking, you begin to rewrite your destiny. This is the true secret. Don't wait to feel confident before you take action. Act even in the presence of doubt, because it's action, not desire, that breaks old patterns. Action, repeated over and over, replaces the old habits with new ones until your entire life transforms. Poverty is not an accident. It is the result of accumulated habits. And wealth, too, is no accident. It is the product of habits cultivated with intention. Today, you can decide what kind of harvest you will reap in the years ahead. If you keep your current patterns, you already know where they lead: to repetition, to scarcity, to the same story told again and again. But if you dare to break them, to think and act differently, there will be no limits to what you can create. Because the one who dares to challenge his own chains becomes the one who discovers a freedom few will ever know. And that freedom begins in the mind, but solidifies in every action you consistently choose to take. Most people believe financial success depends on a lucky strike, a miraculous opportunity that suddenly changes everything overnight. Yet that belief is one of the most dangerous illusions keeping them trapped, because while they wait for chance to save them, they ignore the small, deliberate decisions that could actually free them from mediocrity. Wealth is not built in a single moment. It's built across thousands of seemingly ordinary days in which you decide, firmly and consciously, how to use your time, your energy, and your money. The pattern that destroys most people is their obsession with shortcuts, their addiction to quick results without sustained effort. That mindset drives them to abandon projects, to shift direction at the first obstacle, to spend what they don't have, and to cultivate frustration. What they fail to see is that this repeated impatience, year after year, is the true thief of their dreams. Breaking that cycle means embracing a fundamental truth. Wealth is a process, not an event. Every step counts, every habit matters, every decision builds. You don't have to change everything overnight, but you must commit to stop repeating the excuses that have held you back. Think about the pattern of consumption. Most people spend to impress, to fill emotional voids, to keep up with others, and each unnecessary purchase becomes another brick in the wall of scarcity. The person who breaks that pattern asks before spending, "Does this bring me closer to or further from the life I want to build?" That single question, asked daily, can completely transform your relationship with money, because wealth doesn't lie in what you display. It lies in what you preserve and multiply. Another destructive pattern is the lack of clarity. Many say they want to prosper, but they have no clear idea of what wealth actually means to them. They desire more money, but never define how much, how they will earn it, or what they will do when they have it. And a vague desire can only produce vague results. Breaking that pattern means putting your vision into precise words, the words that will define not just your goal, but the person you must become to achieve it. It is not enough to say, "I want to be rich." You must say, "I want to achieve financial freedom within 10 years, generate passive income that covers my expenses, and build wealth that gives me security and the power of choice." That clarity becomes your compass. It reminds you of your direction and keeps you from wasting energy on what does not matter. Why does a man without direction become an easy target for the same mistakes that have haunted him his entire life? Think about the pattern of comfort. Many don't fail because they lack talent, but because they are addicted to immediate comfort. They choose the pleasure of now over the abundance of tomorrow, and that small daily choice condemns them to a life of mediocrity. The man who breaks that pattern understands that discomfort is the price of greatness. He accepts waking up earlier, working harder, saving when others spend, investing when others fear, learning when others get distracted. That discomfort separates him from the crowd and lifts him toward freedom, because wealth never comes to those who wait for it, but to those who are willing to be uncomfortable enough to create it. Each of these patterns seems small when seen in isolation: an unnecessary purchase, a lazy day, an undefined goal. But together, they form the invisible structure that sustains poverty. And the only way to destroy that structure is through the repeated strength of conscious choices. Do not expect change to be easy. Expect it to be demanding. Do not expect immediate results. Expect resistance. Yet expect, with absolute certainty, that if you persist in breaking those patterns, your life will inevitably transform. Daily discipline is far more powerful than luck, and consistency is the greatest weapon a man can use against mediocrity. You hold the power to decide which patterns you will continue to feed. Within that decision lies the destiny of your entire life. The men who build true wealth are not necessarily the smartest or the most gifted, but those who have the courage to remain firm in new decisions until those decisions become habits. Here lies the great secret. Anyone can feel a spark of motivation. Anyone can plan change when inspiration hits. But few sustain that commitment when no one is watching, when fatigue arrives, or when the temptation to return to comfort appears. It is in those invisible moments, when it seems easier to surrender, that a man defines whether he will break the patterns that enslave him or remain trapped by them. For the real battle is not fought outside, but in the silence of the mind, where every day you decide whether to repeat the same story or to write a new one. One of the most destructive patterns you must break is the illusion that you need approval to move forward. Many sabotage their own growth because they seek permission from others, because they fear criticism, and because they are afraid to think or act differently. But wealth demands mental independence, to think for yourself, to make decisions even when others don't understand, to hold your course even when others doubt. Money and freedom flow toward the man of conviction, not toward the one enslaved by the opinions of others. If you wish to build abundance, you must get used to being misunderstood, to being called ambitious, to being judged for not following the crowd. What many call arrogance is often just the courage to stop living under the collective patterns of mediocrity. Another invisible pattern is procrastination. Every day you say, "I'll do it tomorrow." You strengthen the chains that keep you stuck in the same place. Wealth is built in the present, not in the future. There will never be a perfect day to begin. The only real moment is this one, and your choice to use it or waste it. The difference between a poor man and a prosperous one is not their circumstances, but their urgency. The one who acts now, even if things are not perfect, opens doors. The one who waits, even with resources, loses them. Every minute matters. Every missed opportunity becomes another layer in the pattern of inaction that drags you down. Breaking these cycles requires more than theory. It demands commitment, practice, and conscious repetition. Writing your goals daily, reviewing your progress, questioning your expenses, and training your mind to think abundantly. Even when your reality does not yet reflect wealth, this inner work is difficult, but it is the foundation of every empire. Remember this: the world is designed so that most people follow the same roads, repeat what they've been taught, and never question why they live the way they do. But you hold the power to break that cycle. It won't be easy, because every time you break a pattern, you'll feel resistance both inside and outside yourself. But if you persist, you will discover that behind every sacrifice, there is freedom. Behind every act of discipline, there is power. And behind every firm decision lies a new level of abundance waiting for you. There are patterns that seem harmless, but in truth, they are invisible traps that quietly drain your potential for prosperity. One of them is constant distraction. We live in a world that constantly hijacks your attention. Social media, negative news, meaningless conversations. Every minute you give to the trivial is a minute stolen from the construction of your inner and outer wealth. Carl Jung taught that the poor man is not the one who lacks money, but the one who allows his mind to be ruled by the external world. The truly rich man is the one who masters his attention and directs it toward what truly matters. And what matters are your goals, your discipline, your inner plan. If you do not consciously choose where to direct your energy, others will choose for you. And in that unconscious neglect, the same patterns of mediocrity that have held you back will silently grow again. Another destructive pattern is the mindset of the victim. Nothing destroys progress faster than the habit of blaming. Blaming others, the government, the economy, your family, or a supposed lack of opportunities. That posture may momentarily ease your frustration, but it condemns you to powerlessness, because the moment you blame, you surrender your ability to change. The awakened man, as Jung would say, realizes that even though he did not choose his circumstances, he always chooses his response. He may not control the past, but he controls what he does with it today. And that single decision opens the path to abundance. The question you must ask yourself every morning is not, "Why did this happen to me?" but rather, "What can I create now with what I have?" That mental shift turns you from victim into creator. And from that transformation, true wealth begins to emerge. Abundance also requires breaking the pattern of mediocrity within your environment. Many people remain stagnant because they surround themselves with small minds, people who conform, who justify failure as destiny. Without realizing it, their thoughts begin to shape yours. There is nothing more powerful than environment in molding consciousness. If you wish to elevate your life, surround yourself with those who already embody the level you aspire to reach. Absorb their habits, their beliefs, their perception of reality. Leave behind conversations of complaint and step into conversations of creation. Every connection you maintain either brings you closer to or further from your wealth. If you are surrounded by patterns that pull you down, have the courage to break them and build new alliances that lift you up. A silent but deadly pattern is financial ignorance. Many work tirelessly, earn money, and yet never prosper, not because they don't earn enough, but because they don't understand how to manage what they have. They confuse wealth with income, unaware that the real key lies in mastery, in saving, investing, and multiplying resources with consciousness. The man who refuses to learn these skills is doomed to repeat the cycle of scarcity, no matter how much he earns. Breaking that cycle means dedicating time to understand how money works, how energy flows through it, and how to make it serve you instead of enslaving you. This is the phrase that has buried more lives in mediocrity than any other. I don't have time. Every man has 24 hours. The difference lies in how he uses them. The one who keeps repeating that phrase has already chosen to focus on what's urgent instead of what's important. The one who creates wealth understands that time is never found, it's made. He reorganizes his priorities, eliminates the unnecessary, and channels his energy into what truly builds and expands his life. Breaking this pattern means accepting that your problem is not a lack of hours, but a lack of decisions. And the day you understand that your time is the most valuable currency you possess, you'll begin to invest it with the same seriousness with which you invest your money. Because in the end, properly managed time becomes accumulated wealth, spiritual, mental, and material. Another destructive pattern is self-complacency. Many men make a little progress and immediately stop, satisfied with being slightly ahead of those around them. They believe that being better than before is enough, but that illusion of progress sedates them. It kills their hunger and turns them into slaves of mediocrity disguised as success. The man who creates abundance breaks this illusion by cultivating a vision that constantly pulls him forward. It's not about living in dissatisfaction. It's about keeping ambition alive, recognizing that every goal reached is only the starting point for something greater. This is how opportunities multiply, through an unwavering commitment to never stop, never settle, and to keep evolving even when others have already given up. Breaking these patterns won't be comfortable or popular. It demands solitude, discipline, and sacrifice. But each time you challenge an old habit, you reaffirm a truth that few understand, that wealth is not a privilege reserved for a few, but a right earned through responsibility and conscious effort. You can choose to keep repeating the same justifications that drag you down, or you can decide to rise and build new patterns that elevate you. That single decision, though invisible, will determine the course of your entire life. One of the most deceptive patterns is the endless pursuit of instant pleasure. Many men destroy themselves because they confuse temporary satisfaction with true happiness. They spend money they don't have on things they don't need, just to feel a few seconds of relief. They eat, they buy, they distract themselves, they drown in debt, and the next day, they're in the same place, or worse. This cycle is an invisible prison. The mind becomes addicted to easy dopamine and loses the strength to sustain the discipline that builds wealth. The man who breaks free from this pattern understands that immediate pleasure is the enemy of progress. He learns to delay gratification, to choose discomfort today in order to enjoy abundance tomorrow. That ability to wait, to resist temptation, to invest instead of spend, that's what separates those who will live free from those forever trapped in scarcity. There's another quiet but devastating pattern: the lack of commitment. Many begin with passion, but abandon their projects at the first obstacle. They change goals every few weeks, as if the solution were to start something new instead of persevering in what truly matters. But wealth, in all its forms, is built through consistency, through the decision to stay even when progress feels slow. The man who triumphs is the one who says, "I will do this until it works, no matter how long it takes." That mindset destroys the inertia of giving up and awakens the power of perseverance. The same force that Carl Jung believed transforms destiny itself. This message isn't just motivation, it's a reminder that true evolution begins the moment you decide to become responsible for your own story. Every second you invest in yourself is a step toward personal freedom, clarity, and inner fulfillment. If you believe you're ready for real transformation, subscribe now, activate the notification bell, and share this video with someone who needs to awaken their inner power. Remember, as Carl Jung once said, who looks outside, dreams, who looks inside, awakens. And he also reminded us, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Your growth is the greatest gift you can give to yourself and to the world. So start today. The journey toward your higher self begins now. You didn't see it coming, but you felt it. Suddenly, your thoughts no longer shouted inside your mind. The emotions that once dragged you from one extreme to another seemed to lose their grip. What once hurt simply stopped mattering. You no longer feel the need to explain what you feel, nor the pressure to fit in where you don't resonate. Something within you shifted, and even though the world continues to appear the same, you are no longer the same. And then the question arises, how can you tell if what you are experiencing is just a passing emotional stage or a true spiritual transformation? Carl Jung once said that the unlived life is a disease from which one can die. And when you finally choose to live from your soul, everything changes. It is as if you are suddenly looking at reality through a hidden window, a secret opening that reveals dimensions invisible to the ordinary eye. This is not imagination. This is not fantasy. It is not a story your mind is inventing. That window exists. It opens into a dimension you cannot touch, yet you can feel it with overwhelming certainty. Your soul no longer belongs fully to the third dimension, and that is why everything around you feels different. There are clear signs that you have crossed a threshold, and once you recognize them, there is no going back. The first is the deep urgency to become who you truly are. You begin to feel tired, not in the physical sense, but tired of the roles, the masks, the endless obligation to fit into molds that were never yours. You can no longer pretend to be interested in conversations that drain you, in relationships that no longer nourish you, in environments that suffocate your essence. Something inside of you rebels against the superficial. Appearances exhaust you. Half-truths disturb you. There is an inner force pushing you to stop hiding, to show yourself as you are, to live in your authenticity, even if it costs you affection, recognition, or security. It is not rebellion. It is not defiance. It is evolution. Because once you step into the fifth dimension, you cannot continue betraying yourself. The energy becomes so subtle, so refined, that any incoherence feels like a wound. And so, without fully understanding why, you begin to choose silence over noise, truth over comfort, solitude over false company, coherence over appearances. Pretending hurts more than losing, and that is one of the clearest signs that your vibration has shifted to another plane. The fifth dimension begins precisely when you stop being who others expect you to be and finally become who you have always been. You start to notice that you no longer identify with the things that once defined your life. It is not that you despise your past. It simply no longer represents you. You cannot force yourself to act, think, or speak as you did before. Words flow differently. Silences grow heavier. Decisions that once seemed impossible now feel inevitable, like the only path forward. And this is not an escape. It is a return to what you have always been, but had forgotten beneath layers of duty, expectation, and fear. You find yourself saying no without guilt, protecting your energy without explanations, breaking ties without drama, because you finally understand that you are not abandoning people. You are leaving behind old versions of yourself that cannot accompany you any longer. There is a purity guiding your steps now, a strange clarity that doesn't come from logic, but from somewhere much deeper. It feels like a gentle certainty, as if your soul whispers, "Enough postponing, enough disguises, enough waiting." There is no noise in that voice, no urgency, just a quiet firmness born from the heart, telling you that you can no longer return to what you were. And in that moment, you realize the most profound truth of all. It is not the world that has changed. It is you. Your vibration, your frequency, your consciousness have shifted. And once that awakening happens, once your soul crosses that invisible threshold, the process becomes irreversible. You are no longer asleep inside the dream. You are awake within it, and nothing will ever be the same again. Second sign, increased sensitivity to energies. As your consciousness expands, you begin to notice an internal shift, a heightened sensitivity to the energies around you. This isn't just about what you perceive with your physical senses, but rather an inner ability to sense vibrations, emotions, and atmospheres that were previously unnoticed. Suddenly, places that once seemed insignificant now deeply affect you. You can sense whether a space has a heavy or light energy, whether a person has good intentions or radiates a dense, draining energy. This perception is subtle, but no less real, and can lead to moments of discomfort or, conversely, moments of profound connection. This sensitivity isn't limited to your environment. It also extends to your body and mind. You feel emotions, both your own and those of others, more intensely, prompting you to cherish your energy as an invaluable treasure. You seek purer, more harmonious environments because you no longer tolerate toxicity or emotional exhaustion. This increased energy sensitivity is a clear sign that you are aligning with the fifth dimension, where connection to universal energy becomes a constant and profound experience. This awakening of energy awareness doesn't happen overnight. It is a gradual and powerful process that transforms your relationship with the world and with yourself. You are no longer a mere passive observer of reality. You now become a receiver and channel of subtle energies that were previously hidden. You may notice that certain sounds, lights, or even smells that didn't affect you before now evoke strong reactions. You might feel more drained after being in crowded places, or conversely, find peace in nature, as if the air purifies your soul. This sensitivity also manifests in your personal relationships. You begin to perceive the true emotions behind words, sensing what others don't express. This can be both a gift and a challenge. On one hand, it deeply connects you with humanity and its complexities. On the other hand, it makes you more vulnerable to absorbing negative energies if you don't learn to protect yourself. Therefore, those who experience this phase develop practices to protect their energy field, such as meditation, cleansing rituals using natural elements, protective visualizations, or simply learning to be more mindful about where and with whom they choose to spend their time. Furthermore, this heightened sensitivity drives you to seek authenticity. You no longer accept facades or illusions. You yearn for relationships and experiences that resonate with genuine and sincere energy. This may lead you to distance yourself from people or places that, although familiar, no longer resonate with your new vibration. The most beautiful aspect is that this deeper connection with energy allows you to better understand the universe and your place within it. You begin to understand that nothing is separate. that every being, every element of nature, and every circumstance is part of a vast energetic web of which you are also a part. This shift may feel unsettling, but it is also liberating. It invites you to live with greater presence, to listen more attentively, and to respond from a place of love and awareness rather than fear or habit. The energetic sensitivity you develop is, in essence, a gift that prepares you to live fully in the fifth dimension, where harmony and connection are the foundation of all experience. Third sign, authentic detachment from the ego and its chains. When you begin to vibrate at the frequency of the fifth dimension, something within you slowly loosens from the old ties of the ego. It is not a forced detachment or a denial of your identity, but a genuine liberation from the superficial concerns that once ruled your mind and emotions. You no longer feel the urgent need to prove yourself to anyone, nor do you seek external recognition to validate who you are. Criticism, judgment, and the expectations of others lose their grip on you because you now understand that your worth is intrinsic, not conditioned by outside factors. This detachment also shows in the way you perceive drama and conflict. What once seemed like an insurmountable obstacle now appears as an opportunity to grow and learn. Difficult situations no longer trap you in cycles of anxiety or victimhood, since you have begun to view them from a higher perspective, with an awareness that recognizes the impermanence of everything. This process does not mean ignoring responsibilities or emotions, but rather facing them with renewed serenity, without allowing the ego to dictate your reactions. The need to control or manipulate fades away, and in its place arises a deep trust in the natural flow of life. By releasing the grip of the ego, you also experience an opening to compassion and forgiveness. You no longer cling to resentment or hold on to old wounds, because you realize that carrying such burdens only keeps you at a lower frequency. This new inner space allows you to heal and move forward with lightness and peace. In essence, detachment from the ego is not a renunciation, but a rebirth from a deeper truth, one that connects you with the essence of your being and with the multidimensional reality you now inhabit. This genuine detachment also reflects in how you relate to yourself and to others. You no longer seek to fill emotional voids with possessions, achievements, or external validation. Satisfaction now arises from within, from a space of stillness and acceptance you may have never known before. The constant struggle to prove something or maintain an image disappears, and in its place arises a sense of freedom that allows you to be genuine in every moment. There are no masks, no roles to play, you simply are. This inner evolution also brings with it a significant reduction in the fear of failure or rejection. By releasing the hold of the ego, you understand that those fears are mental constructions that do not define your essence. You dare to live with greater authenticity, free from the paralyzing weight of insecurity. Another important aspect is that this detachment does not mean indifference or disconnection, but a more conscious and harmonious commitment to life. You become a serene witness of your emotions without letting them drag you, and you learn to respond from a place of balance and wisdom. Finally, this process also influences your ability to let go of the past and to stop anticipating a future shaped by worries. Mindfulness becomes your ally, allowing you to inhabit the present with deeper joy and presence. This release from the ego is the key that opens the door to a new level of consciousness, where inner freedom and peace no longer depend on external circumstances, but on a genuine connection with yourself and with the reality you now experience in the fifth dimension. Fourth sign, a deep sense of justice and universal compassion. Something has shifted in the way you see the world. You are no longer satisfied with superficial answers or with accepting injustice as inevitable. You experience a growing sensitivity to the suffering of others, not only at a personal level, but on a much broader scale, as if you could feel the pain and joys of all humanity. This new perspective does not remain in thought, but translates into conscious actions and decisions that aim at the common good beyond personal or selfish interests. You can no longer ignore inequality, social injustice, or the destruction of the planet, because they affect you in a deep and authentic way. But this compassion is not a fleeting emotion or an overwhelming burden. It is a state of awareness where you understand that we are all part of the same energetic fabric, and that healing another is healing a part of yourself. In this dimension, justice is not based on external rewards or punishments, but on the recognition of interconnection and collective responsibility. A genuine desire arises to contribute with empathy, to elevate the collective vibration through active love and conscious action. This awakening to universal justice pushes you to question inherited structures and patterns and to seek innovative and harmonious ways of coexistence. You no longer settle for conformity. You want to be part of the change you long to see in the world. It is as if your soul had tuned into a frequency where peace and fairness are inevitable, and your life begins to reflect that deep commitment. This profound sense of justice and universal compassion goes beyond any ideology or political belief. It is a visceral experience born from the depths of the being. It is no longer just a thought or an idea, but an inner urgency guiding your daily choices. You notice that news which once left you indifferent now affects you emotionally, even if you are not directly involved. You can no longer remain distant from the suffering of others, but without falling into exhaustion or despair, because you know that balance is possible, that there is a way to act from consciousness that creates real transformation. This sign also means you start to see with greater clarity the connection between all aspects of life, the environment, animals, human relationships, economics, politics, and spirituality. You realize that no isolated struggle will make sense unless we acknowledge the fundamental unity that binds us all. With this awakening, action no longer arises from indignation or resentment, but from a deep love and wisdom that invites you to be an agent of peace. Thus, even if the outer world appears chaotic, within you a firm calm is established, because you know that true change begins inside. In this process, you also become more aware of your own shadows and limitations, and instead of judging yourself, you accept them with compassion. You understand that healing at an individual level is essential for contributing to collective healing. Moreover, this awakening connects you with others, vibrating at the same frequency, creating an invisible yet powerful network that sustains change and hope. It is no coincidence that you feel drawn to communities, movements, or causes that promote social justice, respect for nature, and peace. By living from this sign, your life becomes filled with meaning and purpose, and every action, no matter how small, turns into an act of conscious love. This new way of existing shows that you are no longer limited by materialist logic or individualist selfishness, but that you have entered a dimension where empathy and solidarity are fundamental pillars. The fascinating part of this transformation is that it cannot be forced or faked. It emerges organically and authentically, almost without you noticing. It is a change in how you perceive your responsibility towards yourself and the world around you. You no longer seek justice as punishment or revenge, but as a natural balance, flowing from love and awareness. This radically transforms your interpersonal relationships. You learn to set healthy boundaries, to listen without judging, to dialogue with respect even in conflict, and to forgive without forgetting. At the same time, you notice that injustices which once seemed normal or unavoidable now feel intolerable, not because you have become combative, but because your sensitivity to truth and harmony has sharpened so much that you cannot remain silent or passive. This awakening to universal justice also translates into a deeper integration of ethics into your everyday life, not only in great decisions or visible actions, but in small details. How do you choose to consume? How do you relate to the planet? What energies do you allow in your environment? You begin to understand that every thought, every word, and every gesture are vibrations that impact not only you, but the collective fabric of existence. That is why inner coherence becomes fundamental. You cannot preach one thing and act otherwise without feeling a deep unease. This coherence brings with it a sense of authenticity that radiates outward and attracts others seeking the same. In this way, the sense of justice awakening within you becomes an inspiring and transformative force that goes beyond superficial criticism or protest. In this dimension, you realize that real change begins with self-leadership and with the ability to create spaces of peace, understanding, and love within yourself and in your immediate environment. This sign is a clear indication that you have begun to live from the expanded awareness of the fifth dimension, where justice, compassion, and conscious action are the pillars sustaining a new reality. The fifth sign is communication that transcends words. When you step into this new frequency, the way you communicate begins to transform in ways you could have never imagined. It is no longer just about the words you choose, or the sentences you form, or the messages you send through writing. Instead, the essence of communication shifts toward the energetic and emotional level at which you transmit your thoughts. You may start to notice that superficial conversations lose their appeal. The small talk that once filled empty spaces no longer satisfies you. What you crave now are deeper, more meaningful exchanges, moments of authenticity where souls meet beyond appearances. What is even more astonishing is that you begin to experience modes of communication that surpass verbal language altogether. Perhaps you have realized that you can sense what someone is feeling or thinking without them ever putting it into words. You might even discover that you are capable of expressing your own truth without the need to explain every detail, as if the silent energy behind your presence already carries the message. This telepathic-like connection is not a magical gift reserved for a chosen few. It is the natural outcome of aligning yourself with the vibration of the fifth dimension, a state of being where the barriers that once separated minds and hearts begin to dissolve. Within this frequency, it becomes more common to perceive the emotions, intentions, and even the unspoken desires of others with striking clarity, even across distance. At the same time, you notice that expressing what you truly feel flows with more ease and sincerity, free from the fear of judgment. Authenticity becomes the foundation of every interaction you have, and because of this, you begin to attract relationships that are more genuine, more meaningful, and profoundly enriching. Yet this form of communication requires something deeper from you. It invites you to learn how to listen, not only with your ears, but also with your heart. Soon, you realize that what remains unsaid often carries as much power as what is spoken, and you develop the ability to perceive these subtle messages with a natural grace. Living within this fifth-dimensional consciousness is like opening a conscious channel that connects you with other human beings and even with the universe itself. It is a dialogue without barriers, a communication that moves beyond sound and form, reaching directly into the essence of existence. And this form of communication is not confined to human interaction alone. It extends to your relationship with the environment, with nature, and even with your innermost self. You may find that certain places, sounds, symbols, or even seemingly random events begin to act as carriers of messages, profound, illuminating messages that arrive without words. It is as if a subtle frequency, invisible to most, has opened itself up to you. Suddenly, you are able to perceive vibrations that once went unnoticed, and in that awareness, a deeper layer of reality reveals itself. This opens the door to a completely new dimension of understanding and connection. In this realm, energy and intention hold far greater weight than language. And as you live more fully within it, you begin to cultivate a heightened sense of empathy. Your capacity to feel what others feel becomes sharper, more refined, and more precise. Sometimes this can be incredibly enriching, because it allows you to experience intimacy and compassion in ways that transcend the ordinary. But it can also be challenging, because now you are more aware than ever of the energies that surround you and the impact they have on your being. What is even more astonishing is that you begin to experience modes of communication that surpass verbal language altogether. Perhaps you have realized that you can sense what someone is feeling or thinking without them ever putting it into words. You might even discover that you are capable of expressing your own truth without the need to explain every detail, as if the silent energy behind your presence already carries the message. This telepathic-like connection is not a magical gift reserved for a chosen few. It is the natural outcome of aligning yourself with the vibration of the fifth dimension, a state of being where the barriers that once separated minds and hearts begin to dissolve. Within this frequency, it becomes more common to perceive the emotions, intentions, and even the unspoken desires of others with striking clarity, even across distance. At the same time, you notice that expressing what you truly feel flows with more ease and sincerity, free from the fear of judgment. Authenticity becomes the foundation of every interaction you have, and because of this, you begin to attract relationships that are more genuine, more meaningful, and profoundly enriching. Yet this form of communication requires something deeper from you. It invites you to learn how to listen, not only with your ears, but also with your heart. Soon, you realize that what remains unsaid often carries as much power as what is spoken, and you develop the ability to perceive these subtle messages with a natural grace. Living within this fifth-dimensional consciousness is like opening a conscious channel that connects you with other human beings and even with the universe itself. It is a dialogue without barriers, a communication that moves beyond sound and form, reaching directly into the essence of existence. And this form of communication is not confined to human interaction alone. It extends to your relationship with the environment, with nature, and even with your innermost self. You may find that certain places, sounds, symbols, or even seemingly random events begin to act as carriers of messages, profound, illuminating messages that arrive without words. It is as if a subtle frequency, invisible to most, has opened itself up to you. Suddenly, you are able to perceive vibrations that once went unnoticed, and in that awareness, a deeper layer of reality reveals itself. This opens the door to a completely new dimension of understanding and connection. In this realm, energy and intention hold far greater weight than language. And as you live more fully within it, you begin to cultivate a heightened sense of empathy. Your capacity to feel what others feel becomes sharper, more refined, and more precise. Sometimes this can be incredibly enriching, because it allows you to experience intimacy and compassion in ways that transcend the ordinary. But it can also be challenging, because now you are more aware than ever of the energies that surround you and the impact they have on your being.
How many times have you found yourself wondering why you keep making the same mistakes, even though you're fully aware of them? Maybe you've sworn to change, promised yourself that you'd never fall back into that toxic relationship, that destructive habit, or that decision that always leaves you feeling empty. And yet, here you are again, trapped in the same loop. Carl Jung, one of the most influential minds in psychology, offers an unexpected and transformative explanation. These recurrent mistakes aren't mere failures or coincidences. They are messages from your unconscious mind, disguised as opportunities for self-discovery. To truly grasp this concept, we first need to acknowledge that within us lies an internal world as vast as the universe itself. The conscious mind, the one we use for daily decisions, is merely the surface, the tip of the iceberg. Beneath it, in the depths of the unconscious, resides a powerful force that shapes many of our choices and behaviors without us even realizing it. Jung explained that this hidden part of our psyche communicates through symbols, emotions, and patterns. And one of its favorite ways of getting our attention is through repetition. If you find yourself making the same mistake repeatedly, it's not because you're weak or incapable. It's because there is something your unconscious mind is trying to reveal, a truth you haven't yet acknowledged, a wound you haven't yet healed. It's as if your soul is crying out, "Look at me, listen to what I have to say." But instead of paying attention, we often drown out that voice with distractions, excuses, or external validation. For example, if you consistently find yourself in relationships that cause you pain, your unconscious mind may be recreating an unresolved dynamic from your past. Perhaps you are subconsciously trying to heal the rejection you felt as a child, or attempting to relive an experience in hopes of changing its outcome. It's not that you enjoy suffering, but as Jung would put it, your psyche is trapped in an unprocessed pattern, and this cycle will continue until you choose to confront it. One of Jung's most profound ideas is the concept of the shadow, the part of ourselves that we prefer to ignore or hide. The shadow is inherently evil. It simply consists of everything we have suppressed because it doesn't align with the image we want to present to the world. But here's the key. The shadow doesn't disappear just because you ignore it. On the contrary, it gains control from the background, influencing your choices in ways you may not fully understand. This is why the people who irritate you the most and the situations that frustrate you deeply are often reflections of your own unacknowledged aspects. When you keep repeating the same mistakes, it's not random. It's your shadow revealing parts of yourself that need attention. Perhaps you surround yourself with people who belittle you because deep down, you struggle with your own self-worth. Maybe you constantly find yourself in conflict because you haven't learned how to establish healthy boundaries. Jung teaches us that facing the shadow isn't a sign of weakness. It's an act of courage. Because when you do, you reclaim the power that you've unknowingly surrendered to your fears and past wounds. Now, imagine for a moment that every mistake you make is actually a teacher in disguise. Instead of seeing it as a failure, what if you viewed it as a lesson? This shift in perspective doesn't just change how you see yourself. It changes how you engage with life. When you stop blaming the outside world and start looking inward, patterns that were once invisible become clear. And this is where the magic happens. Those patterns lose their grip on you. You no longer need to repeat the same mistakes because you've finally absorbed a lesson they were meant to teach. The challenge, however, is that confronting ourselves can be terrifying. It's much easier to blame others, fate, or bad luck, because accepting that we are responsible for our lives requires a level of raw honesty that few are willing to embrace. But Jung believed that true transformation doesn't come without pain. Not because pain is a punishment, but because it is the process through which we break free from what limits us. It's like cleaning a wound. It hurts, but it's necessary for healing. Think back to a time in your life when everything seemed to be falling apart, when you felt lost, as if chaos had taken over. Now look back and ask yourself, what did you learn from that experience? What new doors opened once you let go of what no longer served you? Jung believed that chaos is not the end, but the threshold of something new. It is in our darkest moments that we have the greatest chance to find our inner light, if we have the courage to face them. When you confront your mistakes and repetitive patterns, you don't just break free from them. Something extraordinary begins to unfold. You start living in alignment with your true essence. Synchronicity, as Jung defined it, occurs when external events perfectly align with your inner world. It is not a coincidence. It is a confirmation that you are moving in the right direction. Suddenly, the right people enter your life, opportunities arise, and the universe seems to conspire in your favor. But this level of alignment is only possible when you choose to live from a place of authenticity. Your authenticity is your greatest strength, yet embracing it requires shedding the masks you've worn to fit into a world that often demands conformity. This process can be uncomfortable, even isolating, but the reward is immeasurable. A life that truly resonates with who you are, relationships that nurture rather than drain you, and inner peace that remains untouched by external circumstances. So, the next time you find yourself repeating a mistake, pause. Instead of criticizing yourself, ask, what is life trying to teach me here? Which part of me is asking to be seen, healed, or integrated? Because when you stop seeking answers outside of yourself and start looking within, you discover something that changes everything. You have always had the power to transform your life. As you begin to notice the recurring patterns in your experiences, a profound realization emerges. Everything is connected. The decisions you made years ago, the wounds you chose to ignore, and even the dreams you abandoned have all shaped the reality you live in today. But as Carl Jung reminds us, this reality is not an unchangeable fate. It is a projection of your subconscious mind, and you have the ability to reshape it. Now, imagine for a moment that everything around you is a mirror of your inner world. The people you attract, the challenges you face, and even the opportunities that seem to slip away. They all reflect what resides within you. This can be difficult to accept because it means that toxic relationships, poor decisions, and failures are not the fault of the external world, but rather invitations to look deeper within. But here's the good news. If you created them, you also have the power to change them. Jung believed that the key to breaking repetitive cycles lies in integration, embracing all parts of yourself, even those you deem weak, broken, or undesirable. Every time you reject a part of yourself, you unknowingly give it more power. And the more power you give it, the more it manifests as mistakes, conflicts, and suffering. Integration is not a quick or easy process. It requires time, patience, and, above all, a willingness to be honest with yourself. But the result is life-changing. No longer are you a prisoner of your patterns. Instead, you become the creator of your destiny. These recurring cycles are often deeply rooted in the beliefs we absorbed during childhood. If you grew up feeling unworthy, you might find yourself constantly seeking external validation, repeating relationships or situations where you feel the need to prove your worth. If you were taught that the world is a dangerous place, you might live in a constant state of anxiety, unconsciously attracting experiences that reinforce that fear. Jung challenges us to question these beliefs and recognize that they are not absolute truths. They are narratives, stories we have internalized that now dictate our lives from the shadows. And this brings us to the crucial turning point. You are not the stories you've been told. You are not defined by your past, your mistakes, or the labels others have placed upon you. You are something far greater. Someone with the power to rewrite your own narrative, to choose a new path, and create a life that aligns with who you truly are. The problem is that many of us live disconnected from our authenticity. We wear masks to fit in, follow paths laid out for us by others, and suppress our true desires out of fear of rejection. But as Jung would say, this disconnection comes at a cost. That cost manifests as repeated patterns, an inner void, and the feeling that no matter what you do, it's never enough. Authenticity is not just being yourself. It is the process of discovering who you truly are beneath societal expectations, past wounds, and external conditioning. And this journey is not something that happens overnight. It requires deep introspection, self-exploration, and above all, courage. The courage to confront the parts of yourself you've long ignored. Because when you begin to reconnect with your true self, something extraordinary happens. You start to live from a place of truth. And from that place, everything begins to align. But how do you even begin? How do you break free from patterns that seem so deeply ingrained? The answer lies in something Jung deeply valued: self-observation. Start by paying attention to your thoughts, emotions, and reactions. Ask yourself, why did I react this way? What am I truly feeling? Where is this fear or insecurity coming from? These seemingly simple questions can unlock a much deeper understanding of yourself. And as you embark on this inner work, you will come to a profound realization. You are not alone. Every person carries their own shadows, their own patterns, and their own struggles. By sharing your journey, by opening up to others from a place of authenticity, you not only heal yourself, but also inspire others to do the same. Because when one person chooses to live in alignment with their truth, it creates a ripple effect. Their light expands, touching and illuminating those around them. Jung once said that there is no heavier burden on the soul than a life unlived. This means that every time you ignore your dreams, suppress your emotions, or follow a path that doesn't resonate with you, you are betraying yourself. But no act of self-betrayal is irreversible. Even the smallest step toward your authenticity counts. As you dive deeper into this journey of self-discovery, you begin to understand that there are no mistakes, only lessons. Every setback, every decision that seemed to lead you astray, was actually an invitation to turn inward. Jung taught us that the key is not to change the external world, but to transform our relationship with ourselves. The world you see outside is merely a reflection of what lies within you. Imagine, for a moment, that all the chaos you've endured, every failed relationship, every goal you didn't achieve, were not failures but doors leading to a deeper understanding of yourself. Each experience has revealed a part of you that needs attention, love, and, most importantly, integration. Integration, as Jung described it, is the process of bringing together all aspects of yourself, even the ones you've rejected, to become whole. But how do you do this? The first step is self-observation, not from a place of judgment, but from curiosity. Instead of asking, why does this always happen to me? Shift your perspective. What can I learn from this experience? This simple change in mindset can open doors you never even knew existed. Because when you look at your patterns with honesty and compassion, you begin to realize that behind every struggle, there is a message, a lesson your soul is urging you to embrace. It's important to remember that this journey is not a straight path. There will be days when you feel like you're making progress, moving forward with clarity and confidence. But then, there will be other days when it seems as if you are slipping backward, as if the same struggles you thought you had overcome return to test you again. However, even these moments of apparent regression serve a deeper purpose. Jung emphasized that true personal growth does not follow a linear trajectory, but rather unfolds in a spiral. You advance, then pause to reflect, and eventually move forward once again, each time from a deeper and more enlightened perspective. Every time you encounter an old pattern resurfacing, you are meeting it with greater awareness, wisdom, and inner strength. Over time, these repetitive cycles begin to lose their grip on you. What once felt overpowering no longer has the same control, and you find yourself responding in ways you never thought possible. One of the most difficult yet transformative aspects of this process is confronting your fears. The patterns that keep repeating in your life are often tied to the things you are most afraid of. Fear of rejection might drive you to seek validation in places where you will never truly find it. Fear of failure could keep you trapped in your comfort zone, endlessly repeating what feels safe and familiar rather than venturing into the unknown. Jung urged us to shift our perspective on fear, not to see it as an adversary, but rather as a guide. Behind every fear, there is an unfulfilled longing, a hidden part of you that is desperately seeking liberation. When you stop running from your fears and instead turn to face them, something profound happens. You begin to realize that they were never as formidable as they seemed. They're like shadows cast on the wall, terrifying from a distance, but as you move closer, you see them for what they really are, illusions. By walking through your fears instead of avoiding them, you reclaim the parts of yourself that you once abandoned. You become stronger, more aligned with your true self, and more deeply connected to your inner power. This journey of self-discovery does not only transform your relationship with yourself, it also alters the way you interact with others. The people who once triggered pain or frustration, and you start to serve a different purpose. Instead of viewing them as obstacles, you begin to see them as mirrors, reflecting the aspects of yourself that still need healing and growth. Relationships that once drained your energy start to dissolve naturally, making space for new connections that align with who you are becoming. When you begin to live in full authenticity, everything in your life shifts into alignment. One of the greatest gifts of this transformation is synchronicity, one of Jung's most powerful concepts. What once seemed like random coincidences start to take on a deeper significance. You meet the right person at precisely the right moment. Opportunities arise in ways you never could have planned. Doors that once seemed closed suddenly open, and life begins to flow with an ease that once felt impossible. This is the beauty of living in harmony with yourself. When you trust the process and embrace who you truly are, the universe responds in kind, guiding you toward the life you were always meant to live. This is not magic. It is a natural result of living in harmony with your true self. However, reaching this point requires a deep willingness to let go. Letting go is not an act of weakness. It is an act of self-love. It means recognizing that certain people, situations, or beliefs no longer serve your growth. It is about releasing what holds you back and making space for what elevates your being. At first, letting go can feel painful, almost like losing a part of yourself. But in reality, it is one of the most freeing things you can do. Every time you release something that no longer aligns with you, you create space for something new, something better. So, the real question is, are you willing to let go of what keeps you stuck in repetitive patterns? Are you ready to look within, confront your shadows, and embrace your authenticity? If your answer is yes, then you have already taken the first step toward a more fulfilling and meaningful life. And that step, no matter how small it seems, has the potential to transform everything. As you move forward in this journey of transformation, you begin to realize something powerful. Everything you need to change is already within you. It is not something you will find in another person, in a course, or even in a book. It is a power that has always been inside you, simply waiting for you to acknowledge it. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist persists." This means that as long as you continue ignoring your patterns, fears, or shadows, they will keep appearing in your life. But the moment you choose to face them, your reality begins to shift. Resisting change is natural. The familiar, even when painful, often feels safer than the unknown. But what if you took a leap of faith? What if you trusted that what awaits on the other side is far greater than what you are leaving behind? Jung taught that the emptiness we feel when we let go of something is not an ending. It is a sacred space where something new can bloom. It is like pruning a tree. By cutting away the dry branches, you allow fresh, vibrant leaves to grow. The moment you choose to let go is the moment you reclaim your power. Because when you cling to what limits you, you are giving away your energy, your time, and your peace of mind to something that no longer has a place in your life. But when you decide to release it, you send a clear message to your subconscious. You are ready for something better. And that is when true magic happens. The universe responds. Doors that were once closed begin to open. Opportunities appear. The right people come into your life. This does not mean that the path will always be easy or free of challenges. But every challenge will become an opportunity to grow, to reaffirm your commitment to yourself, and to embrace your authenticity. Because the journey to a fulfilling life is not about reaching a final destination. It is a continuous process of discovery, learning, and expansion. There will be moments of doubt and fear, but each step forward brings you closer to your true essence. Real transformation does not happen when you change your surroundings. It happens when you change the way you relate to yourself. When you begin to treat yourself with compassion, to listen to your inner voice, to honor your needs, and to set boundaries, something extraordinary occurs. The people and situations that no longer resonate with your new energy start to fade away, and in their place, new connections and experiences emerge, ones that elevate your being. Jung believed that relationships serve as powerful mirrors for our personal growth. Every person who enters your life brings a lesson, revealing aspects of yourself that you might not have fully acknowledged. Even the most challenging relationships have a purpose. They act as windows into the parts of yourself that require healing or integration. Rather than blaming others for your emotions or experiences, Jung encourages us to turn inward and ask, what am I projecting onto this relationship? What lesson is hidden within this experience? When you take responsibility for your life, not from a place of guilt, but from a place of empowerment, you set yourself free. You no longer need the world to change in order to find happiness. Instead, you realize that true fulfillment doesn't depend on external circumstances or the presence of certain people in your life, but on the relationship you cultivate with yourself. And when that relationship is rooted in peace and authenticity, everything around you begins to reflect that same energy. Imagine, just for a moment, what your life would look like if you lived from this space. If every decision you made aligned with your deepest truth, if every connection you nurtured inspired you to become more of who you truly are, if each day became an authentic expression of your essence. This is not a distant fantasy. It is a very real possibility. But it begins with a choice, a simple, intentional first step. That step doesn't have to be grand or dramatic. It could be as small as pause and take a deep breath, as simple as observing your thoughts and emotions without judgment. It could mean releasing a belief that no longer serves you or setting a boundary with someone whose energy drains you. The significance of the step is not in its size, but in the commitment it represents. The commitment to choosing yourself again and again. As you begin to live in alignment with your authenticity, something remarkable happens. You no longer need to chase happiness because it starts to emerge naturally from within you. The obstacles that once felt insurmountable now seem manageable. The people who once had the power to hurt you no longer hold that influence over your emotions. The opportunities that once seemed scarce begin to appear effortlessly in your life. This is a transformative power of reconnecting with yourself, of embracing your shadows, integrating your lessons, and living in harmony with your truth. It's not about achieving perfection or having all the answers. It's about being radically honest with yourself, learning from your experiences, and moving forward with courage and confidence. And as you navigate this journey, you will come to realize that the greatest challenge is not the external world. It's facing what lies within. Confronting the repetitive patterns that have haunted you is not a punishment, but a guide, leading you toward a more authentic version of yourself. Every time you find yourself making the same mistake, it's as if your unconscious mind is whispering, "You haven't mastered this lesson yet." Though it can be frustrating, it is also a gift, an invitation to grow, to evolve, and to step into the highest expression of who you are meant to be. Imagine for a moment that every challenge in your life is not a setback, but a hidden teacher. That failed relationship, the job that never truly fulfilled you, or even the internal battle that seems endless. These are not random misfortunes. They are pieces of a larger design, carefully orchestrated by your own psyche to push you toward a deeper understanding of yourself and what you truly need. Jung taught us that nothing happens by chance. Everything, absolutely everything, has a purpose. The real question is, are you willing to listen? Are you ready to stop blaming others or external circumstances and start looking inward? This journey is not an easy one. At first, it might make you feel exposed, vulnerable, even lost. But within that vulnerability lies your greatest power. Because when you allow yourself to feel, when you stop suppressing your emotions or ignoring your intuition, you begin to reconnect with your essence. Many of us have been conditioned to disconnect from our emotions because the world teaches us that vulnerability is a weakness. But Jung saw it differently. He understood that vulnerability is a doorway to authenticity. It is in those raw, unfiltered moments, when you drop the mask and stop pretending, that your true power emerges. There is nothing stronger than living in alignment with who you really are. This path, however, is not without its trials. As you reconnect with yourself, you might start to notice that certain people or situations no longer fit in your life. This can be painful because it requires letting go. But remember, you are not losing anything. You are making space. You are creating room for relationships, opportunities, and experiences that truly resonate with who you are becoming. It is a cleansing process, a shedding of what no longer serves you to welcome what elevates your being. Something extraordinary happens when you begin to release what isn't meant for you. Your energy shifts. Your perception of the world transforms. You stop focusing on what you lack and start appreciating what you have. And this shift in focus doesn't just alter your emotional state. It reshapes the experiences you attract. It's as if the universe begins to mirror your inner growth, sending you people and opportunities that align with your newfound clarity. But this journey is not a straight road. There will be days when you feel like you're moving backward, moments when doubt and fear try to pull you down. And that's okay. It's part of the process. Jung believed that real growth doesn't happen without confronting the shadows, without passing through chaos. Because it is in those moments of disorder that the greatest clarity is found, that the answers you've been searching for finally emerge. Think of your life as a river. Sometimes the waters are calm and everything flows effortlessly. But at other times, the river encounters obstacles, rocks, turbulent currents, even steep falls. These challenges are not there to stop you. They exist to strengthen you, to teach you how to navigate the flow of life with resilience and wisdom, to help you navigate life with greater confidence, adapt to the unexpected, and uncover new possibilities. Challenges will constantly arise. While this journey can be exhausting at times, every obstacle you overcome moves you closer to your true path. Along the way, you will come to realize a powerful truth. You are not alone. Each of us faces our own inner struggles, our own recurring cycles. And though no two paths are identical, there is something deeply universal about the process of self-discovery. When you choose to share your experiences, when you allow yourself to be open and vulnerable from a place of sincerity, you create bonds that go beyond words. Because authenticity has a ripple effect. When one person dares to live in alignment with their truth, they unknowingly give others permission to do the same. The transformation you experience does not stop with you. It extends outward. Your choices, your energy, and the way you show up in the world have the power to inspire change in those around you. At first, this may seem like a solitary endeavor, a personal quest that belongs only to you. But in reality, the work you do within yourself creates waves that reach far beyond what you can see. This journey is not about reaching a fixed destination or achieving a final state of enlightenment. It is an ongoing practice, a lifelong devotion to self-awareness, growth, and alignment with your inner truth. Each day presents new chances to learn, to evolve, and step further into who you truly are. And while the road may at times be steep, filled with uncertainty and moments of struggle, it is also illuminated by breathtaking moments of wonder, deep personal revelations, and an unshakable connection to the universe itself. The inner path, the one that leads you to yourself, is not the easiest, but it is the most meaningful. With every step forward, with every fear you confront and every limitation you dissolve, you come closer to the core of who you are meant to be. Though it may feel like a deeply personal endeavor, the truth is that as you shift your inner world, you also reshape the reality around you. Carl Jung taught us that no transformation is more powerful than the one that begins within, for what you carry inside inevitably shapes the world outside. Now, imagine for a moment, what would happen if every single person made the choice to confront their shadows, to break free from their old patterns, and to live in radical authenticity? The impact will be nothing short of extraordinary. And this is where you come in. The inner work you are doing, the realizations that push you to grow, are not just for you. They are the seeds of something far greater. Your transformation could be the catalyst that encourages someone else to take their first step, to look within, and to embark on their own path of awakening. And for this reason, this message cannot remain here. It must be carried forward. If something you heard resonated with you, made you reflect, or reminded you of something you need to change in your life, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. There is someone out there right now searching for exactly this, a sign, a word, or a push to break free from their own patterns. And you have the power to be that person. You could be the one to bring them a new perspective, to offer them encouragement, or simply to remind them that they are not alone. Leave your comment below. I want to know, what part of this message touched your heart? What change are you ready to make? What did you discover about yourself while listening? Your words have a greater impact than you think. They don't just connect you with me and with others, but they also help spread this message to more people. Every comment, every interaction, and every time you share this content, you contribute to building a community of individuals committed to living in alignment with their truth. If you haven't yet, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Change doesn't happen overnight, but every small step matters. Every decision you make to face your own patterns, every moment you choose to release what no longer serves you, brings you closer to the life you are meant to live. And remember, you are not alone in this. Here, you have a community that supports you, that listens to you, and that walks beside you on this journey. Life is full of endless possibilities, and each day is a new opportunity to start fresh. Will you take that step? Will you dare discover who you truly are and live from that place of authenticity? If you do, you won't just transform your own life. You'll inspire others to do the same. Together, we can create an impact far greater than we ever imagined. Thank you for being here, for taking the time to reflect, and for being a part of this space. I'll see you in the next video, where we will continue exploring how to create lasting change from within. Remember, transformation begins with you, but it doesn't end there. I'll be waiting for you in the comments and in the next message.